Darcy, I think fundamentally the barriers really are the fact that the needs far outstrip the supply. And that is to say, at the end of the day, their sources are varied in terms of when one can get them, but the inherent challenge is really prioritizing, where do we make our bets from an investment perspective, because there are no shortage of ideas and opportunities in terms of the modernization of healthcare through enabling digital technologies. The critical part really is understanding how it is you choose to examine and prioritize what those needs are and make best use of those dollars that are available. Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, where we're at right now is a tremendous amount of deferred capital needs, and what I would argue is a technology deficit. We've gone many years with insufficient investment in associated technologies, and when you think about the rapid pace of technology and its development, we are very much in catch-up mode and modernization mode in the healthcare industry perspective. And so as a result, it's quite varied, and it really does vary based on an organization in terms of, quite frankly, the community, its setting, its access to capital from a philanthropic and community support perspective, its relationships in terms of partnerships in other sources in terms of private capital that may be available to support those pieces. And then quite frankly, as well as operating performance in terms of individual organizations' funding and their performance and their ability to generate internal working capital to fund these investments. I think some of the key factors are, the reality is we work in a public healthcare system and there's politics. The political cycles do certainly influence, some of the decisions in terms of capital investments, the nature of the investments, how much investment is available. The economy and the economic circumstances also contribute in terms of capital availability. Right now, as an example, with higher inflation, the cost of capital right now and interest rates, the cost of capital is more expensive. So when organizations are required to go to seek debt to finance their initiatives, it costs more. But the flip side is, from a government perspective, generally speaking, they're making more revenue, which also creates opportunity, hence sort of the tie back to politics. The other reality is in terms of, again, as I said, different communities have different assets in terms of their relationships with their communities, their philanthropic community, and the ability to raise contributions to support those investments, and that also varies. It's very different, say, in urban downtown Toronto area, as opposed to, say, rural, remote Ontario, where the access in those relationships and sources of capital do vary, and as a result, there's an inherent inequity that we deal with in the system across the country. I think it's definitely an opportunity there, because at the end of the day, we got to remember that a lot of these private organizations and companies, they are really investing and advancing from a technology perspective and pushing the envelope vis-a-vis what these technologies can do at a rate that public sector can't. That being said, I think there's learnings to achieve in terms of these various public-private partnerships. There are certainly success stories in the public sector on larger scale infrastructure and otherwise projects. But there are also some, I'll say sort of stories out there where they've been less successful in terms of those relationships. So I think it's really important we take stock of some of those lessons learned and be very thoughtful about those relationships. But there's no question, I think there is an opportunity for those relationships to further accelerate investment in digital infrastructure. These events are priceless. It's an opportunity as a sector to come together and reconnect with colleagues, meet new colleagues, and quite frankly, share ideas and learnings with each other. Because it's very easy to get caught in your own world and your own day-to-day, and it just takes a little bit of moment and a bit of a conscious time whereby you're learning from the others or listening to each other. And in some levels, quite frankly, just getting some sense of comfort in the fact that you're not alone and there are shared experiences that we can all draw upon.